Welcome to another episode of the Sussex Non-League Podcast, where we take a look at all the latest goings on at grassroots level across the county. I'm Matt Poll, and on this edition, I will be chewing the fat with Sussex sport guru Steve Bone as the 2025-26 campaign hurtles towards a thrilling and nail-biting crescendo for a number of our clubs. For example, Worthing, Three Bridges, Steyning and Haywards Heath all find themselves locked in enthralling title races, but things are beginning to look decidedly dicey for the likes of Hastings, Hassocks and Littlehampton, who are all fighting to stay in their respective divisions. There were also Sussex derbies galore over the Easter weekend, which provided a veritable feast of football for supporters across the county. But we will start this week's episode in the National League South, where we will first focus on Adam Hinchwood's Worthing. The title race took a dramatic turn over the Easter break as the Rebels leapfrogged Dorking Wanderers at the top of Step 2. The Rebels left it late to beat Sussex rivals Eastbourne Borough on Good Friday before repeating the trick again at title rivals Dorking, who were beaten at Horsham on Friday, to move above the Surrey outfit at the division summit. And Steve, I can only assume there's a Worthing supporter with a lamp and one wish left after that, quite frankly, ridiculous Easter weekend for the Rebels. Without meaning to big it up too much, are we now saying they're favourites to the title? Because that result on Monday must be a huge psychological blow for Wanderers.
Yeah, it really was the perfect Easter for Worthing. They started Good Friday 6 points behind Dorking, which is about where they've been for a few weeks, actually. Friday then saw Worthing beat Eastbourne Borough with a 96-minute Joe Cook header, great header, quite a long way out. Dorking lost at Horsham, more of which we'll hear later. And then on Monday, Worthing went to Dorking, having obviously narrowed the gap to 3 points, went one down and again came back as they had on the Friday and won 2-1 with a fairly late winner. Couldn't have written a better script for Worthing over Easter. I spoke to Adam Hinchwood the following day. He was very buoyant at it, as you can imagine. And I think you would have to say they are favourites. I mean, there's still no room for, whichever of Dorking and Worthing blinks first will probably not win the title. It's that close. If Worthing win their final 3 games, they will win the title because their goal difference is 21 better than Dorking.
It's ridiculous.
Quite a difference, actually. It's quite a surprising difference, really, because I can't remember Worthing having had too many sort of 4-0, 5-0 wins, but they've amassed a good goal difference, plus 41, I think it is. So 3 games left for both teams. If Worthing win all 3, you would say they would win the title. They get that sole automatic promotion spot. But they've been here before. This is their 4th time in the sort of playoff picture. And last season, of course, we remember Worthing were top at one point and then had a couple of late slip-ups and ended up in a playoff eliminator that they lost. So it's fine margins this end of the season. You don't have to be... You can be very unlucky and lose out on a title. You can be very lucky and win a title when it gets to this close. But I would say Worthing are marginal favourites. Interesting one tomorrow, though. This weekend they play Dagenham at home. They've got 2 home games left. Dagenham and Ebbsfleet both to come at Woodside Road. Ebbsfleet still in the playoff picture, of course. The tricky one for Worthing, given that their away form hasn't been brilliant since the turn of the year, is on Saturday the 18th they go to Maidstone. So that looks to be the toughest of the 3, but Dagenham will come down. Dagenham have obviously got a new regime in place there, so they've got players playing for their places, playing for next season. So that will be a tricky one, but getting very exciting at Worthing, and they're getting very close. I imagine there'll be another 3,000 crowd in at Woodside Road tomorrow for that one. So we wish them well. And we'll see how it goes. Obviously, further down, I touched on it there, further down the table, Horsham. Excellent win over Dorking that you can tell us a bit about, I'm sure, on Good Friday. But I think I'm right in saying that Dom De Paula now kind of wants the season to end, doesn't he? He's had enough of this season. He feels they've done as much as they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Going back to that Dorking result, it was a bit of a tough one because I came away thinking that Horsham had played incredibly, and without meaning to give too much away, Steve, I was a bit well refreshed on that Good Friday, so I was quite giddy at the end of that result. Yeah, absolutely. But then Dom, he kind of brought me back down to earth and said, well, we were all right, but Dorking weren't particularly good. And I can kind of see a case for that as well. Horsham went ahead midway through the first half, then a further 2 goals in the second. But yeah, everything came off for them really, Horsham, and Dorking didn't really have much of an answer to it. And for Dorking, it's come at the completely wrong time to start putting these performances, especially considering how neck and neck they've been with Worthing. But yeah, fun fact, that's the third time I've seen Horsham play Dorking at home, and that's the third time I've seen Dorking get beaten by them. So yeah, I'm sure we'll be turning up to more home games more often. I don't think that there's much to say about the defeat at Farnborough on Easter Monday. For those who don't know, they lost 3-0 2-0, sorry. And by all accounts, they were absolutely terrible. Hence, Mr. De Paula saying that he'd quite like the season to be done and dusted. And when you think about it, Steve, they've had about 2 or 3 seasons, some of them maybe consecutively, where they've played 60-plus games. And they're operating with a very, very small squad at the moment. And I think this is now the culmination of going deep in FA Cup, going deep in the Sussex Senior Cup. But for a first season at this level, I think they could be ever so proud of themselves, especially, as I said, when operating with such a small squad and having, I think it was 3 teenagers on the bench over Easter. And they picked up big scalps against the likes of Dorking, Dagenham, Maidstone, to name but a few, Torquay. So yeah, they should. I know that Dom doesn't like mid-table mediocrity, but for a first season at this division, they can hold their heads high and say, done ever so well, absolutely. But yes, funnily enough, that Farnborough win over Horsham had ramifications at the bottom end of the table, as unfortunately we have less positive news to bring for you. Talking up Worthing, Eastbourne Borough saw their 14-year stay, which means Steve couldn't quite believe, at Step 2 come to an end on Easter Monday. The Sports picked up a respectable home draw with Tunbridge, but it wasn't enough to stay with relegation, as fifth from Farnborough, beat Horsham 2-0 to move 14 points clear of the relegation zone with 3 games of the season remaining. We've said this quite a few times, Steve, haven't we, that the writing has been on the wall for some time. Obviously, it's always a shame for a team to go down, but how and why did a team that finished third last season find themselves in this position and ended up dropping out of Step 2? And where did it go wrong?
Yeah, it's as you say, all season they've been at or near the bottom, and a number of times we've said, "Oh, it's okay. They've plenty of time to get out of it." And the months went by, and the weeks went by. Managers came and went, and they just didn't. They never really pulled away from it. They had the odd good result here and there, one at Dover, one at Tunbridge, and a couple of good home wins as well. Was it Maidstone at home, I think, which was a good result. But it just hasn't happened, and I think you have to go back to. Just after this time last year, immediately after they lost their playoff semi-final against Maidstone. And remember, that was another game of fine margins. They could easily have won that. It was 1-1 late on. Maidstone were down to 10 men. If Eastbourne Borough got the winner that day, they could have been in the National League this season. It's funny to think, isn't it? But after that, obviously Adam Murray then left, went back home, went to Kidderminster. Eastbourne Borough pretty quickly appointed Matt Gray. They just seemed to be on the back foot throughout the summer in terms of signing players and rebuilding that squad. Obviously, quite a few left after Adam Murray left, and they had a slow start to the season and were playing catch up after that. I think it was fairly obvious quite early on that it wasn't going to work with Matt Gray at the helm. He did his best. I'm sure he hasn't gone there to intentionally do a bad job. Nobody does. It just didn't work. He didn't have the right blend of players for that level. They then made the first change of the season in October, brought in Tommy Widrington, which again at the time seemed like a good move. Tommy had had some success at a higher level, knew Eastbourne Borough well, the fans knew him, but it never really sort of got the revival going again, got the odd good result, which led to a further change in March. And I think when you have that many changes, it's not just the change of manager, it's the change in the squad as well. Players come and go. Don't know how many players Eastbourne Borough have used this season, but it must be one of the highest in that division, probably in any division, actually. And for a few weeks, relegation has been inevitable. I think at the point where Steve King came in, nobody was really expecting him to keep them up. The focus is very much on next season now. The fans are angry and disillusioned with it, as they would be. This is not what we thought would happen when Simon Leslie arrived back in 2023. He's had 2 seasons near the bottom of the table and one very near the top. So no happy medium for him so far. Steve King knows Isthmian Premier very, very well as anybody, really. He will know what sort of squad he needs to do well. and he's been quite clear in his interview since Monday and on Monday that promotion is very much the aim. They're not going to take it for granted, but that is very much what they're going for in what we think will be a very competitive Isthmian Premier Division next season. So, yeah, Eastbourne Borough fans are probably glad the season's nearly over. They've got a couple more games to play, of course, but they'll be glad of a bit of summer break. They can go off and watch some cricket at the Saffrons or something like that, and come back and hope for better next time around. And I think everybody behind the scenes at Eastbourne Borough will be, doing what they can to put things in place to make sure next season is a successful one.
And on that, Steve, putting you on the spot a bit, do we know if Borough will be full-time still in the Isthmian Premier? I've not really heard much about that.
No, I don't think so. I think the indications are that they're going to go back to part-time, which in itself is quite a, it's quite a big step. I mean, it's a big step when you go from part-time to full-time. It's actually quite tricky, I would imagine, to go back from full-time to part-time because you've got to look at the existing contracted players. What sort of contracts are they on? Who can you afford to bring in? Who do you need to let go? That sort of thing. What happens to the staff? So yeah, lots of sort of hard work behind the scenes is going to be going on there. Part-time would seem the sensible way to go if you're dropping down to step 3, although as we've said on here, there are some clubs at step 3 that are hybrid and almost full-time. So it's a difficult one, but that probably seems the best way to go. The proof will come next season in terms of how Borough do.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of the Isthmian Premier, we had 2 Sussex derbies, on Easter Monday. Chichester City entertained Burgess Hill Town, while Lewes welcomed Whitehawk. Who claimed Western East Sussex bragging rights, Steve? And where do those results leave our quartet in the table?
Yeah, two good derbies on Monday, both quite well attended. At Lewes, the home team really needed a win because they've been a bit too close to the bottom 4 still for comfort, and they beat Whitehawk 3-0, and that almost makes them safe. They're not quite mathematically safe yet, but they're 8 points ahead of 20th, which is kind of where they need to finish ahead of, with 3 to play. So one more good result for Lewes will do the trick. It's been a difficult season for Lewes, very up and down. They've struggled to find consistency, but they have been pretty good at home. They've tended to grind out the home wins when they've really needed to, and that was the case against Whitehawk on Easter Monday. Whitehawk themselves a little bit further up the table, not that much further up actually, 14th as we speak, with 3 games to go. Again, inconsistent. There have been a couple of times, I think, on the podcast this season where we've speculated about whether Whitehawk could make a bit of a bid for the playoffs. Colin Bowman came on one occasion and felt that might happen, but it hasn't really happened. And then higher up the table, our other 2 sides met at Chichester. It was Chichester City 0, Burgess Hill 2. Burgess Hill, they had a setback of a couple of defeats recently, which kind of ended their playoff hopes. But mathematically, they could still do it. They're 6 points off of 5th place with 3 to play. So a couple of other sides in between them and 5th as well. So they need snookers almost, but they at least they've kept the excitement going till the very end. Obviously, what's happened since our last podcast is that they've parted company with Jay Lovett. A surprise move, really. Jay and Gary Mansell have seemingly been a very good and successful partnership for them over the last couple of years. Got them up from the Isthmian South East and have done well this season, in their first season in Isthmian Premier. The club put out a statement saying that with some regret, they have had to sort of choose almost between Gary and Jay because they want to go down a sole manager structure. They didn't really explain exactly why they felt the need to go with that structure now, but that's the decision they've made. Gary has got the nod. Jay is on his way for the second time actually from Burgess Hill in about 3 years. So got to feel a bit sorry for him having been part of that success there. Be interesting to see how Burgess Hill do with Gary at the helm, but certainly going okay at the moment, and it's been an excellent season for them.
Yes, indeed. And best of luck to Jay, and wherever he lands a new job. Dropping down into the Isthmian South East, and Three Bridges are just 2 points from the title after a 6-point Easter weekend. Bridges ran out 2-1 winners at Sheppey on Good Friday before beating West Sussex neighbours Hassocks on Easter Monday. But Jamie Crellin's side will be made to work to claim the Eastbourne South East title. Bridges visit third-placed AFC Whiteleaf this Saturday before entertaining second-place AFC Croydon Athletic a week later in what could potentially be a huge game at the top of the division. Croydon are 8 points off the leaders and no doubt will be waiting to capitalise on any Bridges slip-up. It's shaping up to be a thrilling end of the season for Three Bridges, probably more thrilling than they would have liked. Do you think they can wrap up the title in Surrey on Saturday, or could we potentially have a horrible finale for Bridges?
It's a very difficult one to call, isn't it? Our friend Colin Bowman is going to Whiteleaf tomorrow to see in great detail what happens and hopefully bring us some good scenes for Three Bridges. They've had such a good season, haven't they? 29 wins out of 39 in the league. So they've been top all the way through. I don't know if they'll do it tomorrow. I think they might just have to wait another week. Don't think they'll lose at Whiteleaf, but a draw might not be enough to get them the title. They need 2 points basically from their last 3 to get that title. So 2 draws will do it. With the way that the goal difference is, Croydon are the only side that can catch them now, and Croydon are in Sussex tomorrow at Hassocks. So Hassocks might be looking to do Three Bridges a favour. Hassocks actually, as we'll come to in a minute, will be more concerned with helping themselves than helping anybody else, having lost that Three Bridges on Monday. So I think Three Bridges, I'm going to say they will be champions, but I'm not sure they're quite going to get over the line this weekend.
Yeah, fingers crossed they do. As you said, Steve, they've been flying, haven't they, all season? And especially when you put into consideration how well they ended last season, kind of hamstrung by the fact they were playing in, was it Chatham, I think, while their ground was being sorted.
Yeah.
Jamie Crellin's just done an incredible job. And if he does it, I think he'll be my manager of the season. I think I'll go as far to say.
I think so. They've had a couple of sort of brushes with the playoffs, haven't they? Got into the playoffs 2 years ago, just missed out last year. They've kept faith with Jamie and his staff, and he in turn has kept faith with a lot of the players. I think I don't think that squad has changed too much really in that time. So we could have, there's 2 things to possibly look forward to. We could have an Eastbourne Borough Three Bridges Sussex Cup final to come. We could also have Eastbourne Borough v Three Bridges in the Eastbourne Premier next season, along with all our other Sussex teams. So, it's lots of derby days to come.
Absolutely, yeah. Fingers crossed for Jamin and the boys on Saturday. Elsewhere in the Eastbourne South East, as Steve mentioned, Hassocks and Hastings remain scrapping near the bottom of the table. Hastings in 17th, just 4 points clear of 19th place Hassocks, who are in the relegation zone. The 2 sides actually met at the Beacon on Friday, and Lewis Finney's 95th minute penalty claimed a vital 2-1 win for the Robins. Hastings visit mid-table Broadwood Heath this Saturday for another Sussex derby. Well, as Steve mentioned, Hassocks host Croydon. It's going to be another horrible end to the season for both these clubs, probably one that neither of them wanted. How do you see this relegation battle panning out? I know that, obviously, not Sussex related, but Hashtag United have done voluntary voluntary relegation. Will that affect the Eastbourne South East at all, or is it just the Eastbourne Premier, Steve?
No, I think, as I understand it, Hashtag they've obviously asked to be relegated from Step 3 from the Eastbourne Premier. We don't know yet where they're going to go. There's some suggestion that they might go all the way down to Step 5, but I don't think that will have any direct influence on how many teams go up and down from Eastbourne South East. I mean, I might be wrong because these decisions are sometimes made after the season is finished, aren't they? Which is always a bit of a shame. But I think all that the teams at the bottom of the Eastbourne South East can do for now is assume that it's going to be 4 down. At the moment, Hassocks are in the bottom 4. They're 3 points below Erith, who are the next team up, Erith Town. Erith have got a better goal difference. They won 7-0 the other weeks, and that's why. But Hastings United are still in there as well. So we had Hassocks against Hastings on Good Friday. Looked like it was going to finish all square, which wouldn't really have helped either side. And then Hassocks got an injury time penalty, bit of a debatable penalty, to be honest. It looked as though the ball came off a defender's thigh rather than his arm. That was given. Hassocks put it away, made the most of that. Hassocks then, as we've said, lost at Three Bridges on Monday. Hastings lost both their Easter games, so they are only 4 points above Hassocks in that final relegation spot. The sides below Hassocks are pretty much gone. East Grinstead, we know, are relegated already. Beckenham and VCD look like they're going to go. So if you were a betting person, you'd probably say Hassocks are favourites to be that fourth team to go down, and it'll be Erith Town and Hastings that survive. But some tense games to come. As you say, Hastings play Broadbridge Heath tomorrow. Might not be a bad game for them. Broadbridge Heath not going up or down, but are a good side at home, as we know. But if Hastings can get a result there, that probably makes them safe. Hassocks have to hope for a bit of a miracle at home to Croydon tomorrow. If they don't get anything there, it goes to the final two games. So it's very tense. And also, just to mention a couple of our other teams in that division who have done a little bit better than those. We've got a little gaggle of teams in mid-table. Broadbridge Heath are 12th now. They've had a reasonable run of form. Eastbourne Town, in particular, had 2 wins over Easter, including a 7-0 win at Beckenham. They're up to 11th, and Crowborough Athletic are safe in that division, having come up last year, 15th with 49 points. So well done to those 3 for staying clear of the battle.
Absolutely. And before we move on, if any of my bosses are listening, voluntary redundancy, don't read too much into that, me saying that. I'm very, very tired. I love this job, honest. And
your words
best. Absolutely, yeah. Very, very tired mind at the moment. But anyway, we soldier on. We're going to stay in Step 4 and cast our eye on the Isthmian South Central, where a couple of draws extended Bognar's unbeaten run to 7 games, but things are looking worrisome at Littlehampton. Defeats to Leatherhead and Moneyfields leaves the goal 3 points from safety, albeit with 3 games of the season remaining. Mixed results for our side, Steve, as we can see there. Seems like there are reasons to be cheerful at the Rocks. And can Littlehampton escape the drop? It could potentially be quite a powerful SCFL Premier next season.
Good, actually, yeah. So taking Littlehampton first, they've not, they've only had 1 win in their last, we'll say last 10, something like that, which is why they are where they are. They're 20th. 2 sides below them already relegated. Horndean and Fareham have gone. So 2 more sides to fill those relegation places at the moment. Littlehampton Town and Met Police are there. Littlehampton Town are 3 points off of safety. So 3 games to play. You're probably thinking they need to aim to win 2 of those, and they would probably be okay if they did. They're at home to Hartley, Wintney, mid-table side this weekend. That's a big opportunity for them to get 3 points. Our friend Colin, if we can keep mentioning him, he went to see them at Moneyfields on Monday, and a really good first half against a team who are right up there in the playoff race. It was 0-0 at half-time. Littlehampton could and felt they should have been ahead at half-time, but then Moneyfields made some changes at the break and steamrolled them second half. 4-0 it ended. That's kind of the way it goes sometimes when you're down the bottom. But one thing we know about Littlehampton, they'll keep fighting to the last. Mitch and George won't accept any sort of soft endings. They won't go down without a fight, that's for sure. Still hoping they get out of it, but time not on their side. A few weeks ago, we were a bit worried about Bognor as well, weren't we? But we don't need to be worried about them anymore. 7 games now under Danny Hollands and Ben Neller, and they've yet to lose under the new regime. 3 wins, 4 draws, I think it is, a couple of draws over Easter. So they're in quite a healthy 12th place. They're looking at who they want to keep for next season. They're looking at who they might want to bring in, and they will be very much looking up next season and having a good push for playoffs, if not the title. So yeah, it's been contrasting fortunes in recent weeks for our 2 teams in that division, but best of luck to Littlehampton in their remaining games.
Yeah, absolutely, and keep up all the good work at Bognor as well. Now we come to the SCFL Premier. Monday saw, quite frankly, a massive game at the top of the table involving Haywards Town and Steyning Town. Meanwhile, Shoreham welcomed AFC Vardinians in another massive game at the bottom of the division. Who came out on top of these games, Steve? What were the ramifications at both ends of the table, and what were the other main headlines from this Easter weekend in the SCFL Premier?
Yeah, as you say, Haywards Heath against Steyning was the really big one. Because of results on Saturday, Haywards Heath went into that game 6 points behind Steyning with 4 to play. So you don't need to be a brilliant mathematician to work out that if Steyning had won that, they would have been 9 points clear with 3 to play, and that pretty much would have been it. And Steyning actually went ahead. So it was a little bit nervy at the Hanbury for a while. Steyning led 1-0, but Haywards Heath came back really strongly, scored 3 goals. Steyning did get another one back later on, finished 3-2 to Haywards Heath, and that has just kept the title race alive. at least for another week and probably until the last day. So the situation at the top is that both sides have played 35. Steyning on 86 points with a goal difference of 72. Haywards Heath on 83 points with a goal difference of 75. Goal difference could yet come into it if Steyning have one more slip up. That was Steyning's first defeat on the mainland, I think, for about 6 months in the league. They lost in Guernsey, but they haven't lost at home or on any other Sussex ground. So they've been on a good run. It's how they respond to that, really. They've got a difficult one tomorrow. They play Eastbourne United tomorrow. Haywards Heath are on the road. So, you'd have to say Steyning are still favourites at the moment. But Haywards Heath, with that win on Monday, was it Monday? It was Monday.
Yeah.
Haywards Heath, with that win on Monday, have given themselves a chance. At the other end, the big one on Monday really was Shoreham against Fardinians. Fardinians won 3-1, and that has done for Shoreham, I'm afraid. They are down. Can't now catch Fardinians, who are 18th. And it's also looking bleak for Lancing, who are 7 points behind Fardinians with only 3 to play. So it looks like Shoreham and Lancing will be the bottom two. As far as we know, it's going to be 2 down. There can be changes to that with things like ground grading and teams moving sideways. But at the moment, it looks like Shoreham and Lancing both down in Division 1 next season, which for Lancing, obviously, that's a second straight relegation. So they'll be really disappointed in that. And at some point, they need to rebuild and consolidate and start to work their way back up again.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like the SCFL Premier excitement's got to your dogs as well, Steve. They can barely contain their excitement about how thrilling the end of the season is going to be.
The non-league dogs are getting very excited, that's for sure. Hopefully they'll quieten down in a minute. Or I could just get them. They might make more sense than me, actually. I'll get them on screen and they can take over.
Well, we're going to need a little bit of sense out of you now, Steve, because I'm going to ask you who you think is going to win the SCFL Premier title. You've mentioned this week's fixtures. Beyond that, Steyning host Peacehaven before concluding the season at Seaford on the 25th of April. Heath, meanwhile, following their trip to Seaford, will be at home to New Haven before concluding at Eastbourne United. So with all that said and done, Steve, who's your money on?
Yeah, difficult, isn't it? Difficult to call. They've both got to play Eastbourne United, and you would say that's going to be the hardest game for each of them, because Eastbourne United they've had a really good really slow start to the season. They were bottom half, I think, for most of the first half of the season. They're now 6th, could still get in the playoffs as we speak. They're 5 points off a playoff place. Don't think they'll do it, because I think Peacehaven probably will get the points they need. I just think Steyning are probably fair. If you force me into a corner, I would say Steyning probably, because I can't see them. Don't think they'll lose again. Steyning are having lost on Monday, which should be enough to give them the title. They could afford to have. I think if they get 2 wins and a draw, that would be enough. Whatever Haywards Heath do. As I say, either side could easily slip up against Eastbourne United. I don't think either side will slip up against anyone else. So, sorry, Haywards Heath, but I'm going to tip Steyning at the moment. Or maybe I should say, sorry, Steyning, I'm going to tip you, because some of our forecasts on here don't turn out to be very accurate, do they? Some would say. No. But yeah, hopefully it'll go to the last day and the excitement will continue for a little longer yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations on Haywards Heath on your SCFL Premier title and promotion to the Isthmian League after getting Steve's backing. And finally, we have a couple of cup finals to preview. The aforementioned Haywards Heath Town will take on SCFL Division 1 side Worthing United in the RUR Cup final at Sussex HQ at Lancing's Culver Road on the 22nd of April, while Littlehampton will meet Steyning at Peacehaven's delightfully named Window Workshop Sports Park in the Peter Bentley Cup final on the 4th of May. Quite big occasions, but maybe even more so, Steve, by the fact that I believe this is Worthing United's first RUR Cup final. I know for certain this is definitely Little Common's first ever Peter Bentley Cup final. As you mentioned, great occasions. But how do you see these finals going? Is there an obvious winner in there, unfortunately?
Well, you'd think there's an obvious winner in both, but that Haywards Heath Worthing United game is 3 days before the final league games.
It is, yes.
So Haywards Heath might still have one eye on that final league game. If they are going into that game with a chance of winning the title, might that affect how they approach the cup final? I don't know. I mean, they've got a strong squad, so they can rotate a little bit. Kev Green will have it all worked out, I'm sure. I just think that might just give Worthing United a bit of a chance. Nobody will give them much of a chance. They're a good side in Division 1, but Haywards Heath are very strong in the Premier. Haywards Heath should win that and should be able to win it comfortably, really. But it's a cup final. Funny things can happen in cup finals, so I wouldn't entirely rule out Worthing United's chances there. I'm sure we'll get Glenn on the podcast again if they win, or even if they lose. I'm sure he'd be happy to talk
absolutely.
about that. Steyning Little Common in the Peter Bentley final, 4th of May. So that's after all the league business has finished. So Steyning by then will either be on cloud 9 celebrating the title, or they could be in the playoff picture. I don't know when the playoffs have been held. I think the playoffs are normally about a week after the final league game, so they could even be done by then. Little Common have been quite up and down in the Premier League this season, always hold their own in the Premier League. Great for them to get to their first cup final. Little village side, sometimes a little bit in Bexhill United's shadow in terms of the geography. Done really well to get to the final. And they have had one or two eye-catching results along the way. Actually beat Haywards Heath the other week in the league as well, didn't they? I think. Again, if you were asking me to part with money at the bookies, I'd probably go for Haywards Heath and Steyning to win those 2 cups. But you just never know. You never know. It'd be nice to have a little cup shock somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, best of luck to all those teams in those respective finals. And now we come to our traditional games of the weekend, where we pick a game we think you should keep an eye out for in Sussex. Steve Bone, what have you gone for?
I'm going to go for Worthing Dagenham this weekend. I think it's the biggest game in Sussex probably this weekend. You would say certainly have the biggest crowd there. They'll have 3,000 and a bit there. I should think Dagenham and KSI and everybody will bring a few. Will bring a few down. Worthing unbeaten at home in the league since Adam Hinchelwood came back. If you remember, his first game back was Forest Green in the FA Cup at home on the telly, and they lost that. But since then, they haven't lost at home in the league. Even when they were having that rocky run of results in January and February, they had a couple of 2 or 3 home draws, but they didn't lose at home. They were losing in a couple of games and came back to draw. So I think they will keep that going. I think they'll get it done tomorrow. As I say, Maidstone away is more the one I'm worried about for them. But that's a huge one tomorrow. It should be a great spectacle.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I've gone for a Broadbridge Heath Hastings in the Isthmian South East on Saturday. Sussex derbies, always great occasion, but this one even more so. The Bears are safe from the drop, and again, they've had a very good season at that level. But Hastings, as we mentioned, are very much in the relegation mire. Victory for Heath could plunge Hastings into deep, deep trouble, especially if Hastings beat Croydon and Erith, win at Merstham. It would leave the U's potentially just above relegation zone on the goal difference. So, massive, massive game there for Hastings. Big one indeed. Best of luck to all our sides in action this weekend. And my thanks to you, Steve Bone, for joining us this week. It'll be interesting to see how many of your predictions don't come true.
Most of them, probably. We'll see.
All good fun, though. But brilliant. Thank you very much for joining me. Don't forget to keep checking out sussexworld.co.uk/sport for the best coverage of local football plus your local Sussex weekly papers. And keep your eyes peeled for future episodes of the podcast where we'll have guests from a variety of clubs. Thank you very much for listening and watching. And Steve and I will see you when we see you.